Good morning, my people. Welcome back to Rax Global. New name, new feeling, and obviously new moves in the market, man. So, with no further ado, let's get back to business just like we usually do. Okay, so first things first, as usual, what we want to do is we want to just have a brief look on our daily chart and give us an idea of specifically where we are in the market, what's been going on, what is the longer time frame perspective, and how can we align ourselves with that perspective. So, let's not make it too difficult here. We can see that particularly on the 20th of October, we have made a high that we've pretty much been ranging in since that time. We've obviously had a large swing downwards, came into an area of reasonable imbalance around here before the market's obviously pushed up. Get a light double bottom, what I like to call this an inside double bottom on the daily kind of price. But you can see we don't actually break any. If you can see, when we have this bullish push up, we don't actually break this candle's high. Price manages to turn back around, doesn't go under the low, and then has a final breakout. So this is kind of like our first initial push that we might actually create a higher low under this at this area here. This could have been a higher low for price to move back upwards. Obviously, you can see it's taken a significant amount of time to happen, but reality is once we did get this kind of double bottom kind of structure, price couldn't obviously break under these lows, and then we get this massive push back out. Again, we get another run downwards back to this kind of top of this area where you can see price reverts back to this zone before again kind of stalling out or bottoming out, as people like to call it, and then starting a new leg up again before we kind of managed to push pretty much back to the top of this major resistance. So today is again, as we find ourselves closing, and we want to obviously move down to our smaller time frames to give us an idea of specifically what is happening on those time frames. But I think from a bigger picture perspective, we can expect that there would be some bullish movement in the market until we got back up to this resistance, and obviously after we'd made this bottom down here for price to start running upwards. Yes, everybody expected maybe there'd be a little bit of resistance at the top of this move, but because this was obviously already inside the range, we wasn't expecting, or I particularly wasn't expecting, too much resistance. But again, it still held off for about 5 days before the market continued. So it's relatively been quite a slow couple of weeks, slow December, I would say as well. But yeah, let's go down into our smaller time frame just to give us a better idea on how to trade the day. So specifically me now, I'm only more focused on, I would say, London session moves intraday, and it gives you a pretty clear idea of what you should be looking for. So just obviously looking at this, we can maybe from an outside perspective say we're still looking up, but there could be signs that bears come into the market once we start trading towards and maybe above this resistance. So let's just go down to our smaller time frames, which obviously would need me to move my head from here. Actually, maybe I can do it here. No, I can't. So yeah. So move my head to the lower end so we can see that this is clearly the 30-minute chart. And I do like to cycle between these charts depending on what I have going on or what kind of perspective I have in the market. But I think when it's clear, it's a lot easier to operate with just one kind of time frame. So I think as we can see with our structures that are being created here. So let me just talk about what I have highlighted. So each day I have the London session highlighted, and I'll also create what we call a TPO profile for the London session. So there will be a value area, a point of control, the open and close of the market, and I do get rid of the actual graphic, so there is also usually a graphic that would come with it as well. If you can see here, there would usually be like a block graphic, and you can kind of see where the market has spent the most time. But I don't want to spend too much time talking about market profile factors and techniques when I think everybody is probably well versed to the idea that I trade this. So yeah, we'll be looking at obviously the value areas, etc. on the day. And if you can just clearly see on Friday, we've had a value area that was completely above Thursday's value area. So price pretty much moved up comfortably during that session. Obviously, we did get a major pullback at the end of the session, but I like to look at the overall value as opposed to just the candlesticks. I like to see at the end of the session, what does the value look like? And if you can see in this particular instance, yeah, value has moved up on this day now. One thing that's always a key caveat for me is you can see we opened outside of the range on Friday. We opened outside of the range of Friday's value, well, not even Friday's value. We opened outside the value area, but we also opened outside the range of Friday's trading in general in the London session. So usually for me, when this happens, I like to call this like a gap. And I like to wait or hope the price would revert to a significant area on that previous day before it rises. Now, if you can see, my area chosen was not actually the top of the range, which probably would have been a great entry on the day. I was actually hoping for that, but there would be a move back to the value area low. And we haven't actually seen that move thus far. We have obviously got that push that came off this imbalance roughly that came during this large push up here, and also maybe just the range. Actually, we can actually see that we may have just held the range and continued up. So I did actually miss this buy on Friday, but today I'm a little bit more weary. You can see the London session has just started at 8 o'clock now, and we are inside value, which has given a slight level of balance in price. It's letting me feel like, even though, yes, we can still see the market should be moving up, I do feel like there is a little bit more of a balance as prices opened. So today, I guess what I'm expecting is I still feel, especially as it's Monday, that this area could be somewhat significant and we could see a move back down towards this area. Obviously, I won't be taking sells because taking a sell position when I do think the market's bullish in the past has pretty much only caused me issues. It kind of starts giving me a conflicting idea of what could potentially be happening. So yeah, what I'm going to do is actually wait. It's a Monday. We've obviously got the weekly kind of flow, so we can obviously wait for maybe the first 2 4 hourly candles to set up like the initial balance of like the weekly kind of structure, which maybe will give me a clearer idea after maybe about 8 hours, so I can come back maybe during the US session or a little bit further along the day when I have a little bit more confirmation of what's going on. But as for now, what I want to see is how, if price manages to break out of this value area, is there enough bullish action in the day thus far to keep pushing up without actually picking up any of the value that maybe have been left behind when we didn't come back to the value area high. So that's ideally my idea for the day. I want to see if price obviously can come downwards back to this area, then I can just wait for a buy potentially for the week upwards from here. But if not, I would want to see price break out of this value area, completely, and potentially the range, and then maybe just a retest buy if price action is suiting that move. So I think yeah, today's obviously going to be a bit more of a tentative day, a bit more of a waiting day. I mean, I would particularly, like I say, I could also be looking for if there's some bullish kind of support off Friday's value area low. This would give me an indication that buyers, at least for the London session, could potentially still be bullish today. So yeah, I think just for the London session, it might be difficult to it's maybe poor positioning for a buy. There is a lot of areas where you could potentially get a discounted buy. So I'm probably waiting for price to drop, but reality is, yeah, today's looking more like a waiting day. So if price, again, I think just to sum up, well, don't want to move my major resistance line, so let me just undo that move there. What I want to do is wait for a buy at my value area low, potentially, if we can see price action is suiting to this move well. If that doesn't, then again, it could be potentially lower, which is all the way at what we call Thursday's value area high, which could be 24238 roughly. So 4238 probably potentially is my favorite position of the day. Probably if the market actually does come to this place at any point during the week, it would potentially signify a buy for me. And again, same thing around roughly here today. If price manages to turn around, if price manages to even get here, then if it manages to turn around, I can be looking for something. But again, that would just be based on the lows of Friday's session, because I think once we trade under here, it's a very, very high likelihood that this area that we're talking about may be in question. Or I could just be wrong and price could just fly straight up and I might miss the move. But again, you don't want to get in when there's bad positioning. So I think it's discipline over FOMO here. And yeah, that should be all, guys. So just want to get back into the flow of, do you know what I mean, making these videos, providing some insight for the trades that we're taking day to day. And I hope this can help somebody somewhere if it can. But feel free to comment, like, share, subscribe, do all of that. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow for the London session again. Have a lovely day, people, and take care.